Murder in the 1940s in the United States wasn't nearly as common as it is today, even in larger cities such as Los Angeles. For the most part, walking the streets were far safer then than it is today. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for a 22-year-old beauty named Elizabeth Short. The evening of January 15 of 1947 would sadly be her last day on Earth, alive. Elizabeth was born on July 29 of 1924 to parents Cleo and Phoebe in the Hyde Park section of Boston, Massachusetts. The family moved around a bit, and soon the stock market crash of '29 caused her family to lose all their savings, which drove her father to commit suicide. Short was also plagued with bronchitis and other breathing issues as a teenager, so the remaining family all moved around a bit and ended up in Florida for a few years, when the family ended up getting some shocking news. Short's father had faked his own death and wasn't dead after all. He had abandoned his family and was in fact alive and well in sunny California, and had started a new life and a new family. Elizabeth for some reason chose to forgive her father, and when she turned 18, she chose to relocate to be with him in California. She soon met an army man and began a short-lived romance that she ended after he allegedly abused her. She also got in trouble for underage drinking because she wasn't 21 and was caught drinking in a bar, and was ordered by a judge to go back to Massachusetts. After bouncing around a bit, she returned to Los Angeles where she met another army man, Major Matthew Gordon Jr., whom she had known from when she lived in Florida. A whirlwind romance developed and she had thought she had found true love once again, but sadly, it was not to be. Only a couple of weeks shy of the end of World War II, Major Gordon was killed in battle, ending her hopes for a happy marriage. The next 6 months would prove to be her last as well. She soon moved back to Los Angeles in 1946 and took a job as a waitress where everyone who came in contact with her said she was a bright and happy person. Men gravitated to her, and she was asked out often. She was said to have the looks of a classic movie star, and that is exactly what she had planned to be. She wanted to be famous, and although that dream would eventually come true, it would not be in the way she had hoped. Short had rented a room near her job behind the Florentine Gardens nightclub on Hollywood Boulevard. In January of '47, she had taken a trip to San Diego with Robert Manley, who most of the folks who knew him called him Red, because of his red hair. Manley was a married man, with whom Short had been dating. He later told the police that he had dropped her off at the Biltmore Hotel so that she could meet her sister there. Shortly after, she was seen at a nearby restaurant called the Crown Grill Cocktail, which was the last time she was seen alive. The following morning was January the 15th of 1947. Sadly, Elizabeth Short's nude body was found on a vacant lot on the west side of South Norton Avenue in the neighborhood of Limerick Park. Her body was severed into 2 pieces, which was cut at the waist. She was drained of all blood, which left her body a solid white color. A local lady by the name of Betty Bersinger found the body that morning while walking with her young daughter, who was only 3 years old. At first, the color of the body made her think that what she was seeing was that of a mannequin from a department store, but when she looked closer, she was absolutely horrified at what she saw. She ran to the nearest house she could find and telephoned the police. Not only had Elizabeth been cut in half, her nude body was washed of all blood and evidence, and her face had been slashed. Her mouth was cut from her corner of her mouth to her ears to make it look like what some would say was a Glasgow smile, or a Joker face from Batman. Whoever did it was a very sick individual. She had cuts all over her torso and her breasts, where sections had been removed. Her intestines and insides was tucked neatly under her backside. Most disturbing of all was how she was posed in a way that would be humiliating to her. Her arms was posed over her head, while her lower section of her body was a foot away from the top half, and her legs were spread wide for all to walk past and see. Near the body was evidence such as a heel print, tire tracks and a cement bag that contained watery blood. One good thing an autopsy found was that she had most likely already been dead at the time she was cut in half. There was evidence of her being tied and bound by her hands and feet. It's hard to imagine what that poor girl went through. She was identified by her fingerprints, which were still on file from 1943, when she was arrested for underage drinking. Just a few days after the murder, the editor of the Los Angeles paper, at the time called The Examiner, got a letter in the mail from someone who claimed to be the killer. He said that he would send evidence shortly that would prove it. On January the 24th, an envelope came in with some of Elizabeth's belongings, including her birth certificate, some of her business cards, some photos as well as her address book. Although this person teased and taunted the police saying he would turn himself in at some point, he never did. Later, some clothing and shoes was found in a bag with another letter from this supposed killer saying that he had committed suicide because he feared being caught and couldn't bring himself to turn himself in. It was never known whose clothing it was or who had written the letter. Over the years, there have been many suspects and many theories as to who the Black Dahlia murderer was, but to this day, no one is 100% certain. It's an unsolved mystery that remains unsolved to this very day. If you liked today's story, we hope you'll consider giving our channel a hit to our subscribe button. We know you'll love the content we bring each week, if you like this type of story. We have many more where this came from. You can see it all at graveyarddance.com.